Hey, this is Travis the TAO Templar. This is going to be controversial for some network participants to hear. We're going to go over my critiques of the Bittensor network participants. Remember, miners do the work, validators check the work, subnet owners control the work, and stakers judge the value of the work. Remember, validators check miners' work and then rank order them according to the value miners are providing. Let's do miners first. Miners just want to get paid without having to do much work. Would-be TAO miners think, oh, it's a crypto I can mine. I wonder how much a mining rig costs, and then I can do the math to see if I'll make money in the end. Nope, you can't think that way in Bittensor. If you do, you will be punished by your competition. Remember, miners compete with one another for emissions. It's built into the network. You cannot mine by setting up a rig and forgetting about it. You need to stay updated with the latest code changes and look for ways to make improvements. Otherwise, your emissions will suffer and you will get kicked off the network by your competition. I actually have no critiques for miners. They exist in a highly competitive environment where they must provide maximum value. Validators are a different story. Validators get a lot of flack for weight copying. See my video on the subject if you're unfamiliar. Essentially, validators can pretend to check miners' work, but not actually do it. This is called weight copying. When weight copying happens on a subnet, scores given by validators to miners are less accurate. This creates an effect where the emissions miners receive will be slower to increase or decrease, so the feedback mechanism is slower. Let's do a quick example just to go over the basic math here. We're going to simplify a lot here. Let's say all validators have the same stake and that 90% of the validators on the subnet are weight copying. Let's say a miner's current score is 50 out of 100, but they've just upgraded their mining rig to be 10 times as powerful as before, providing much more value. The next time weights are calculated, weight copying validators will give a miner a score of 50 out of 100 because that was the last consensus score before the miner upgraded. Whereas the non-weight copying validators gave the miner a score of 100 out of 100. When we average out all the weights, the score is averaged out to be 55 out of 100. So the next time the weight is calculated, all the weight copiers will give the miner a score of 55. So the next time the weight is calculated, the weight copiers will take that old score of 55 out of 100, and the non-weight copiers will give the miner 100 out of 100 again. This time the consensus score is 59.5 out of 100. Weight copiers take that 59.5 out of 100, and the non-weight copiers again rate the miner 100 out of 100 for a consensus score of 63.5 out of 100, and so on and so on, eventually reaching 100 out of 100. This weight copying thing sucks. Eventually the miner is rewarded, but it lags behind depending on how large the weight copiers are. Honest validators are also rewarded less TAO than weight copiers, so the incentives seem to not be aligned for validators. If all validators were pursuing self-interest, then presumably they'd all weight copy and the network would be unproductive and die. While most people think that weight copying is the #1 issue facing Bittensor today, I don't think so. I think the #1 issue facing Bittensor is my next criticism of validators. Most validators are not selling access to the network. Some of them do, a very small minority are. Many people think that validators only have the one job of checking miners' work. This has been true for the early days of Bittensor, but running a few servers to do validation work isn't going to be enough for long. Smart validators are looking at how to sell access to the network to non-participants. When this happens en masse, validators will actually be fulfilling their full purpose. I see many non-weight copying validators criticizing weight copiers. But are those non-weight copying validators also selling access to the network, or are they just living the easy life where they don't have to innovate and improve? Miners don't get to live the easy life, nor should validators. Now, why do I care about selling access to the network? What's the point in having a network that can do everything Bittensor can do, but no one can use its output? Luckily, the incentives are such that this will be addressed naturally by the network. When a validator starts to sell access to the network, they'll be able to afford to give their stakers more rewards. And more stakers will choose to stake with the validator with the higher APY. Other validators better follow suit and provide access to Bittensor commodities, lest they risk reducing their stakers and therefore overall take. What about if a weight copier sells access to the network? Aren't they getting the best of both worlds, high APY from weight copying and income from selling access? If you're going to be a reliable validator, selling access to customers outside the network, you'd better be validating. Otherwise, you don't actually know what you're selling, and you'll become an unreliable access point to the network relative to other validators. The validators who are actually validating and immediately ranking the miner as 100 out of 100 will provide higher quality and more reliable access than weight copiers. I'd like to see more people criticize validators for not selling access. Subnet owners. Subnet owners want to coast on their earlier hard work. We've seen this with a few subnets. They get set up, they get a bit of hype, then the owners stop pushing updates and then contently sit pretty, enjoying the subnet owner's cut of emissions. Right now, subnet owners are lucky that a new subnet slot costs a lot of TAO. When dynamic TAO comes out, the subnets that have sat on their hands will immediately start hurting, as anyone can copy their open source code, improve it, create a better version of the subnet, a version that is more performant, provides more value, is more efficient, etc. But before dynamic TAO is released, subnet churn is relatively slow, where the least performant subnet is rotated out every couple days. But more importantly right now, subnet emissions are determined by validators and their stakers. While some validators recalculate their emissions per subnet every day, some don't do it nearly as frequently. And it's hard to tell if they are even effectively judging the subnet owners on their subnets. I have a strong feeling that when the dynamic TAO upgrade happens, we'll see hundreds of new subnets out the gate, and some of the existing subnets will fade into obscurity, replaced by leaner ones who are driven by serious competition because their emissions are calculated in real time by stakers. Subnet owners need to fear their competition just like miners do. Dynamic TAO makes this a reality. Let's look at stakers really quickly as an honorable mention. While dynamic TAO, now referred to as RAW, comes out, stakers won't get that sweet APY they're currently getting for doing almost nothing. If they want to get good APY, stakers will have to participate in evaluating subnets and risk getting less APY. Right now, though, they get a free ride. Though I wouldn't say that stakers are completely useless. They're doing a couple things. Number one, they're locking up their TAO, thereby making it more scarce, which raises the price of TAO. Therefore, they increase the dollar amount that participants are rewarded. They also choose which validators they feel are most important to the network and give them more weight. Now, all participants want a free ride. Miners would like to have a set it and forget it mining environment like in Bitcoin. Validators would like the same thing for validation. Subnet owners would like a set it and forget it subnet as well. But by actually working and improving your miner, validator, or subnet, you increase the value of TAO, and we're all happy. The cool thing about all this is that I don't even have to make this video to convince the participants to improve. They all know that if they don't improve, they'll stop profiting from the network. This is the result of the brilliant alignment of incentives in Bittensor. Like, follow, and subscribe, and may Bittensor's invisible hand guide you.